Hey guys, Chris from Hockey Tutorial here. Now if you remember roughly 3 or 4 years ago where we looked at the original Sparx machine, it was a home sharpener that was easy, safe to use and meant that pretty much anyone would be able to sharpen the skates, their skates or their friend's skates or teammates' skates from the comfort of their home or maybe even at the rink. Now over time we've used the Sparx a hell of a lot. We've taken it with us to numerous countries for tournaments and you start to get very familiar with the way that it works and you get very comfortable with the result that you get. It is very accurate and it is very, very easy for pretty much anyone to use. And it did away with that irritation and that I could almost say anxiety of figuring out when you were going to get your skates sharpened, if it would be done properly, if it would be done by somebody that knows what they're doing. But the most irritating thing about the entire skate sharpening process was the lack of consistency. Because when you have a human being sharpening your skates, unless they are extremely good at what they do, like Ken based in Peterborough in the UK, shout out to you, if they don't really know what they're doing or they're not as skilled as some other sharpeners that are out there or some, I guess you could say, people that sharpen skates, I've always looked at skate sharpening as an art form, it means that you're never going to get a consistent grind. The way that your skates were sharpened this week will be different to the last. And that's where automated sharpeners really came into play and helped hockey players get a consistent result when they were getting their skates sharpened. So they had the faith and the trust to know that when you stepped out onto the ice, it'd be a feel that you were used to and not something you'd have to adjust to. So over time, using the Sparx sharpener, what are the things that we liked about it? It's going to be the fact that you could sharpen your skates anywhere. It was precise, it was convenient, it was cost effective in the long run, and it was something that I had control over, which was a big deal. What didn't we like? There was very little things that we didn't like about the Sparx. Mainly it would have been the size of it. We made a couple of videos showing you that it was portable, it had a massive Pelican case that it went into, but the weight of the machine and that case while moving around was no joke. It was heavy. If you had a car, it'd be easy to get around, but it definitely wasn't the type of thing that you could kind of walk around the streets with or get in and out of spots if you didn't have a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. Now when we look at the new Sparx sharpener that's been released, what's changed? Now the first thing that you're going to see at a glance is, in my opinion, the new Sparx makes the previous generation look like an absolute dinosaur. The original unit, when it first was released, I thought it looked sleek, and compared to some of the other competitors of Sparx, something that we always gave them credit for is that this device looked like something that you wanted to have in your house, at the arena, at your office, wherever. It looked good. The new one looks incredibly sleek. I don't know what it even looks like. Previously, it had been described as looking like a printer. The new model definitely doesn't look like that. It looks way too sleek. The same LEDs are in there to show us in terms of if the machine is idling, if it's in the middle of sharpening skates, when it's completed. A lot of familiar features, but it looks so much better. The other thing that you notice is that the new model is significantly smaller and much more compact than the original Sparx. Roughly 40% lighter and a reduction in size. The first thing you notice is going to be the depth. The previous Sparx was very deep, very wide and very tall. This new one is so much more compact, which leads on to one of the biggest advantages that this one has. It is now truly portable. This thing can be thrown into a backpack that is available on Sparx's website that you can just throw onto your back and walk about with the machine. And I'm confident, based on the airlines that we use and the airports that we use to fly to different countries, that I know that I would be able to get this on a plane to come with me to, for example, Finland or Sweden when we're going to be there this winter for the pond hockey season. So aside from the new Sparx, dare I say it, looking so much more sexy than the previous generation, what has actually changed? Now for us to cover that, I'm going to start with the externals of the machine and then work my way to the inside. Now of course the big one is going to be the weight and size. I know I keep saying this because it's a massive deal. Even just picking up each of these two machines at a table, literally lifting them up a few inches and putting them down, you can feel a massive difference in the weight. Of course I'm going to put on screen some images so you can see what these two machines look like, and of course the weight in pounds and kilograms for anyone out there to get a clearer idea of the weight of these two machines. But the new one is so much more compact. Aside from this, the control panel that allows us to essentially control the way that the machine works and what it does has been relocated, and also the format or the layout of it has also been changed and improved, in my opinion. Previously, all of the controls on the original Sparx were right at the back of the machine in the top left corner, which meant if you had it sat on quite a large table or quite a high table, you would have to reach over the entire machine and also the skate to be able to get to the control panel to start and stop the machine. And it also meant that seeing how many passes the grinding ring had was difficult if it was on a high table, because you wouldn't be able to see right at the back of the machine. Now with the new one, what they've done is move that control panel, change the layout of it to make it much more ergonomic, and moved it to the front left of the machine. Aside from this looking so much better, it's so much more accessible, so much clearer to see what is going on with the machine, how many passes you have left, how many grinds that the particular ring you have has left. It's just way, way better and way easier to use. In addition to this, Sparx have also relocated the power switch and also the mains or power port for the Sparx machine. This was again right at the back of the machine, and if you're familiar with the machine, it was pretty easy to reach over and know where the off and on switch was. But if you weren't familiar with it, it might take you a while to figure out that it's right at the back of the machine, right in the left corner. But now it being on the side of the machine to the left-hand side, you can see it at a glance, and it means that it's very, very easy to know if the machine is on or off or the power port isn't plugged in properly. So it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it's a nice subtle change that I do welcome. Now from there, where the actual skates go in, the handle is still exactly the same as what I've experienced on the previous generation of Sparx, but what they have done is that there was two little side plates that you had to slide to essentially lock the skate into place. Now on the original Sparx, these were massive, massive chunks of plastic that had lights on them to indicate when they were locked in place and in contact with the machine. And the issue with that is over time, you would find that these panels would start to get a bit stiff and you'd have to use much more effort to get them to slide and lock into place. The new ones are much lighter. They've eliminated the need for the LED light. They slide back and forth much, much easier. And from using both of these machines, even briefly, from what I can see is that it contains a lot more of the shavings from the skate blade inside the machine with the new variation of these sliding ports that they have to lock the skate in place. Now from there, when we look at the base of the machine, another big difference that you're going to notice is that the bulkiness of the machine is of course gone, and what they've done is the panel that allowed us to see inside the machine was tempered glass on the original Sparx machine. It was nice because unlike a lot of other skate sharpeners out there, you could see the skate being sharpened. Now if you're not a hockey player, you're not a skater, that might not make sense to you, but it's the same mesmerizing motion that any player feels when they watch a Zamboni cut the ice. You've seen it 100 times before, but for whatever reason you're compelled to stare as it does what it does. But the new Sparx machine still allows us to do that. They've just replaced the tempered glass with a polycarbonate. So it's reinforced, it is strong, it's slightly flexible, but it means that we can still see inside the machine, and it's another reason that this machine is so much lighter than the previous generation. This polycarbonate material also goes throughout the entire base of the machine, all the way up until the back. So you can see a lot more of what the machine is doing, which just looks cool, especially with the LED lights. Now another big difference that they've made, of course because that tempered glass has been removed on this particular version of the Sparx machine, it means that you don't lift a panel or like a doorway, like drop it down to be able to gain access to the inside of the machine. That kind of panel that flipped open or that flap is gone. So if you're wondering how you actually get into the machine, it has two switches on either sides of the machine that you have to pinch and then lift the machine up. What happens with the Sparx here is that it has effectively two opening positions. One that kind of gives you access to be able to change the grinding ring, to calibrate the machine, maybe even to adjust the height of the wheel or the grinding wheel itself or ring. And then also has a secondary position that will allow you access to be able to maybe get in with a vacuum cleaner to hoover out the base of the Sparx machine so you can get rid of any of the shavings that come off of your runners or blades after they've been sharpened and built up over time at the bottom of the machine. In addition to this, that secondary position that opens the Sparx machine as wide as it can possibly go is also there to allow you to remove the base, which is that polycarbonate base, and replace it with a Sparx Pro base, which we'll go into in a bit more detail later on in the video. In addition to this, it also allows you access to be able to get to the filter at the back of the machine, because after you've used it for some time, this will need to be replaced. And this is another reason that Sparx have always had quite an edge over the other home sharpeners or portable automated sharpeners that are out there, because of the integration of that filter and the general design and performance of what Sparx have. Now, of course, now that we're inside the machine, what have they changed on the internals? Now, Sparx did a phenomenal job of creating the original Sparx machine, and we did give them credit for this in the original video that we filmed 3-4 years ago. So in terms of the actual way that the machine worked, there wasn't really much that needed to be changed. Sparx's main goal here was to reduce the size, the weight, and to really make the machine portable, but most importantly, reduce the price, which we will come to later in this video. Now, what they've done is essentially two minor upgrades to the way that the motor actually works and functions. And they've also changed a couple of the internals to make our lives much easier. The first one that I noticed that is a big upgrade for myself personally is the calibration process. Previously, of course, you had to use a tool that was provided inside the box that locked in place over the Sparx sharpener where the skate would go. You had to use a calibration ring, and then you had to stick your hand inside the machine and twist a knob that was very, very stiff to be able to align 2 points inside the machine to make sure that the grinding ring was perfectly calibrated, meaning that you'd get a fantastic result every time you sharpen your skates and they'd be perfectly level. Now what they've done to upgrade this is introduced a tool that kind of looks like a screwdriver that goes into the machine while the machine is closed. You can do it while it's open as well, but it makes much more sense to do it while the machine's closed. And this tool allows you to calibrate without having to stick your hand in the machine. It's not only so much easier to turn the calibration dial to make sure that it's perfectly balanced and calibrated, but it means that if you've used the machine and it's not brand new and you stick your hand inside there to calibrate it, you don't get any shavings from the blades all over your hands. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but for me, moving around with my Sparx machine a lot, that was something that I noticed over time. So this upgrade, I really like it. Another subtle upgrade that they've made is also in the height adjustability of the ring itself. You can change the angle that the ring actually comes into contact with the skate blade. You can move it up higher so it gets more of the skate's toe and heel, or lower, based on personal preference or even based on the type of steel that you might be sharpening. Now what they've done here is not only changed the position of the device or the little handle that allows you to adjust the height of the wheel, they've also allowed the wheel to go a little bit higher than what we saw in the previous generation of Sparx machines. But the change of the angle of the little handle that allows you to change the height of the wheel is a big difference as well, because previously it was angled to the side and it wasn't as comfortable to be able to do it. Now it's very easy, very quick, very convenient, and it also still features the numbers to show us what position the wheel is in if you have a position or particular number that you like to use. For example, I tend to keep it at 4 or 5, depending on what runners I'm sharpening. Now, of course, this leads us on to the price. Now, currently the Sparx machine, the brand new Sparx machine, is $699 US. The first generation of Sparx machines was $899. Now, $200 doesn't sound like a big deal, but let's look at what that actually gets you. So $699 US. If we look at it in terms of a pair of hockey skates, pretty much everyone that I know that plays hockey, whether they're incredibly skilled or just starting out or just a recreational player, beer leaguer if you're in North America, they all have skates that cost around that price point, even sometimes a lot more if they're custom. So essentially what Sparx have done is created a smaller, more compact, lighter weight machine that is more advanced than the previous generation, still has the same consistency, has a lot of key upgrades that we've covered in this video, and it's cheaper, and it looks better. I don't like to give credit where credit isn't due, and that's definitely not one of these points. Sparx have absolutely hit this one out the park. They've created a much better version of what they had previously, improved the way that it looks and performs, and made it cheaper. When you look at it in terms of it costing the same as one pair of high-end skates or the price of 2 high-end hockey sticks, it makes it a lot easier for hockey players to digest. So if you're trying to sit there and figure out who's the Sparx machine for, the new and improved version, pretty much everyone. If you're a group of players that play at the same rink, you can group together, all chip in a couple $100 or even $100 each, and you can go out and buy one together. Or you can pick one up yourself. I know Ricky behind the camera keeps talking about buying one, taking it to the arena and charging his friends to be able to sharpen their skates to make his money back on the cost of the machine, which is something that you could do. But I think the convenience of having control, consistency, precision, and a safe machine that anyone can operate whenever they want to is a big reason for pretty much any player or skater to want to pick one up. Now, when we look at the Pro version of the Sparx Sharpener, what have they changed here? Essentially, the actual machine itself is exactly the same. It's just the base unit that the machine attaches onto that's different. You have the polycarbonate base with the brand new Sparx machine, and with the Sparx Machine Pro, that comes with a tempered and metal base. It's bigger, it's beefier, it's a lot more solid, and for me, I feel like it feels way more premium. The tempered glass just feels incredible. It's one of the reasons that I really love the original Sparx. So seeing that they've created a version that has that is great. The idea behind this is you can effectively have the Sparx Pro, which essentially is a 2-in-1. You purchase the Sparx Pro that comes with the polycarbonate base and also the tempered glass and metallic base. The idea that I'd see behind this is to have perhaps the metallic and tempered glass base, which is massive and sturdy and a little bit heavier at home, as the base unit that you would use pretty much 99% of the time, which is what I intend to do at the office. And then when we're going away to Finland or Belgium for tournaments or for pond hockey, that's when I'd switch it up, take out 6 screws, replace the tempered glass and metal base with the polycarbonate base, attach 2 more screws in, and you're good to go. The thing fits into a Sparx backpack, and you can take it on a plane. I know that I can do that, but I'm not saying everyone can. You need to check with your airlines and where you fly from. Or you could just throw it on your back and get to an arena, get to wherever you need to get to. The new version is truly portable. But essentially the difference between the new Sparx machine and the Sparx Pro is the base. Bigger, sturdier, more solid, more premium in my opinion, and because it's larger, you could probably get away with not cleaning it out as frequently. But something I like about the Sparx Pro is that the base, that metallic and tempered glass base, the internal of it is completely metal and it's at an angle, which means that all of the dust and shavings from inside the machine will fall and be much, much easier to clean and maintain on a daily basis. So that for me is a really, really big deal. Whereas the other Sparx would be a little bit more finicky to clean because of that polycarbonate base. You might have to kind of like shake it a little bit or maybe even remove the top of the machine to get right to the back to vacuum out all of that dust. It's not a big deal, but for me, it's something that I definitely consider, and I'm sure some of you out there would also consider that as well. So with the Sparx itself, the brand new Sparx comes with that polycarbonate base, and the Sparx Pro comes with the metallic and tempered glass base and also the polycarbonate base, effectively a 2-in-1. And that is priced at $899, which if you guys remember, going back 3-4 years, was the price of the original Sparx machine. Now, if you're wondering what's become of that original Sparx machine, that's now being referred to as Sparx's commercial unit. So I'm assuming that's the machine that you're going to find at maybe rinks or maybe hockey stores that are using these machines to sharpen their skates. So if you're a consumer, you're a player, you're a team, it's going to be a case of picking between the brand new Sparx machine and the Sparx Pro. Now, just bear in mind, if there's nothing that I've covered in terms of the tools or the balancing process or the sharpening process, all of that good stuff, if I've not mentioned it, essentially it's exactly the same as it was on the previous version of the Sparx machine. And if you're unsure of that, of course, the original video that we filmed will be linked down below so you can check that out and familiarize yourself with the steps that it took to be able to run and operate one of those machines. But it's super, super easy. Of course, any information that you want to pick up about this machine will be down below in the video description to Sparx's website, where you can pick one up or just get much more information about the way these machines work, what they do, where you can get them, and where they're available, etc. But as always, a big thank you for watching this video, a big thank you for rocking with us all the way to the end. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of the videos that we post. And as always, guys, thank you for watching, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.